Welcome to the show. Here, I speak with experts and experts at life in heartfelt conversations designed to help us pause, choose intentionality over hustle, and discover joy, meaning, and connection in our everyday lives.
You're not judging each other, and if somebody gives that critique also, you don't take it as a judgment. It's difficult. It's not the easiest thing. Even when Radhe tells me that she didn't like something or that something could be improved, sometimes it hits me and I'm like, oh, okay. I started learning at the age of 4, and at that time I would go for class very willingly. But as I got a little older, I got a little rebellious, and at the age of, say, 9, 10, 11 is when I don't want to go for class now, and when my mom calls me, I want to go and play outside with my friends. I don't want to go for class, and I was not very regular with that. So that's when my parents also realized two things: that maybe he needs another teacher outside of the house who will be a little more strict with him and who he will be a little more afraid of, and also that my music itself was getting a little more serious and advanced. For me, it's very interesting because music is probably the only thing that I have been so, at least at sometimes, so disciplined with. My academic studies, I was not very interested. I would try to just do the bare minimum. Not that I completely ignored it, but at the same time, I was not like a brainy sort of typical kid. I was more into my arts and playing. See, I've always known that Carnatic music could connect to all of these things. But how do I do it? How does Sandeep Narayan do that as a Carnatic musician? See, it's an exploration. Exploration means that we don't always know what we're going to get, right? Mm-hmm. The best of the explorers they boarded a ship and had no idea where the hell they were going until they found something. That much of what we do is like that. I'm just trying and going in different directions. But yes, at the essence of it, the core is that my goal is to bring Carnatic music to more eyes and ears around the world. So that recognition and fame is short-lived when you have your family around you, because the trash still needs to get taken out, the garage still needs to be cleaned, the car still needs gas. And I think that's the way it should be, I mean, I love that.
Thanks, Sandeep. Thanks so much for making the time to come on my show. The story is quite interesting on how we met and what you thought of my podcast name. So that's definitely going to go into, I guess, a little bit of behind the scenes on this one. But I wanted to start with maybe something that you aren't expecting. While doing podcasts, one thing that it affords us is sort of allows us to stalk people, and so I've been stalking you online, seeing the kind of things that you've been saying. And one of the things amongst many things that stood out is the kind of fun relationship that you seem to share with Radhe. I saw you guys have gone to Kumbh together, and there are lots of fun behind the scenes bits. I did see one reel where you guys are sort of having a little bit of fun around pronunciation of the names of the ragas. Really love that. Yeah. So it would be really interesting for us to sort of hear, what do you think goes into making a strong, meaningful relationship that endures?
Probably making time. I think people just take it for granted that somebody is just there, maybe just there sitting around waiting for them and they can do whatever they want. But that's not the case. That's another human with their own life and their own ambitions and their own schedule. I think it's very important that people understand and respect that. And that has to be mutual, of course, right? See, this sort of mutual respect and mutual understanding has to be there. So that's what I mean when I say, just to make time for each other is that it's that you understand each other's importance and in each other's goals and aspirations. So it's not just about me. I find, see, of course, for artists, it's very different than, say, maybe the traditional office going couples with a more of a strict schedule than 9 to 5, and then you come home, or you have weekends, or you make a vacation plan and you go on a holiday somewhere. The thing for me and Radhe, everybody thinks, oh, you guys don't have a job, so you must spend so much time together. But it's the opposite. I mean, I'm in America right now, she's in India. Last month she was in America, and our trip only overlapped by about maybe 1 week. I spent 1 week with her, and then she had to leave back to India. So we try to spend as much time as we can with each other, but the communication and that commitment to each other, and it's one thing is, like I said, is sort of understanding each other's schedules, but also to allow the other person into your schedule completely, right? So it's kind of like both of us understand that. I think that's one good thing about us both being artists, is that she also understands my schedule. I understand her schedule as an artist, what she needs to do, whether it's practices or rehearsals or classes or touring, performances, all of those things that goes both ways. I think that's one big, factor for us that works in our favor is that we're both artists. Maybe if one person is an artist and one person is office going, it could be difficult. I don't know. But so many things like that. There could be different factors in different situations. I don't know that anything is so perfect that okay, two artists, that makes sense, or two non-artists, then that makes sense. I mean, anything can be. You can make it work if you want to make it work. Probably at the end of the day, but you have to realize that that takes some effort sometimes, and I think people take that for granted and don't realize that.
Right. I think I also read somewhere that you're talking about both of you are your biggest critics, both of you are your biggest supporters as well. If you could talk a little bit to that as well.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, see, when you have somebody like that, I think the most important thing is that you're not judging each other. And if somebody gives that critique, also, you don't take it as a judgment. It's difficult. It's not the easiest thing. Even when Radhe tells me that she didn't like something or that something could be improved, sometimes it hits me and I'm like, oh, okay, but then you realize that it's coming from a good place and then you reflect on it later. And very often I think, oh, you know what, she's right actually. And I didn't realize that. But these are a lot of these are things that somebody may not tell me. Most people will not even take the effort. Why would they even go out of their way to tell you such feedback other than, to just come and say, oh, I enjoyed it. It was so nice, and keep going. So that's where the being each other's biggest critic actually is probably more important than being each other's support. Of course, we are, for each other, we are sort of a mutual support system. That's always very important, of course. But you get that from a lot of people. So then how do you improve and how do you get sort of a constructive criticism from some place that you trust? Also, right? Somebody might be giving me criticisms or what they think are reviews and comments, feedback, but I don't always know if it's coming from the best place. Is it coming from somebody who even knows what they're talking about? So in this situation, as artists, also we can trust each other, and she very often has a different perspective on it. Even though she's an artist, she can many times come and she may not know the deeper intricacies and technicalities of Carnatic music. Though she is well educated and knows a lot of the Carnatic music, she may not know very technical aspects. So she sometimes comes up and gives me feedback that maybe something just didn't make sense to her and didn't work. Whereas in my head, I'm thinking, oh, it's such a simple thing that I thought that it's so common. But then I realized, what? There's probably a big chunk of the audience that it's not connecting to. And ultimately that connection is what I'm doing this for, right? This is what's the most important part of it. So that making that connection means trying to connect to as many people as possible, and through various aspects of the concert. Not that every note or every swaram, not that every song or every line I sing is going to connect with every person, but throughout the concert, there's ups and downs and you connect with different people at different times. So it's good to also get that perspective from her. Similarly, I know much less about dance and less about Bharatanatyam than she knows about Carnatic. She's much more well-versed in Carnatic music than I am in, say, Bharatanatyam. But if I go to her program or even other performances, I've become better about this over the years. I can give more meaningful feedback that something didn't make sense to me. And I don't always know what about it, but at least I can say something there just didn't work for me. Something was, maybe it was slow or it was too fast or something about it didn't connect and I couldn't understand it. So then again, she can also realize that, okay, maybe this is not making sense to everybody. It's only making sense to her. Or sometimes maybe it's just my ignorance and then, you can ignore it and move on. That's really important to have that person like that. And there's probably very few people in our lives that we can trust and listen to and be honest with, both ways, right? To be honest with that person and to also know that they're being honest with us. There's very few people in life that you can actually even rely on like that.
You guys have been married for a bit, right? So has your relationship
A bit.
evolved over time? Has something changed?
Absolutely. I don't think anybody gets married and they're the same person 10 years later. We are going to be celebrating our 11th anniversary in another few months. So it's been more than 10 years. We got married in 2014. So I don't think any individual or relationship couple has a sort of stagnant characteristics or identity, especially after 10 years. So naturally, it's about that growth happening together and complementing each other. Like I said, some things are very interesting. In fact, where I was in my career, say a few years back, she's probably in her career now where, things were picking up for me and now things are picking up for her. So I've come to a place maybe where I'm a little bit more confident, comfortable, stable. Many ways I look at my career and I'm thinking, what else can I do? And what else do I want to do musically, creatively? And very often I will kind of just tell her, why are you doing that? Or I'll ask her, why are you doing that? Do this, or why are you going there, go here? And she says, well, like say 4 or 5 years ago, if you were in my position, you would have done these things, which is very true. There was a time when I was trying to sing everywhere and go everywhere and not miss an opportunity. Now maybe I'm a little more selective. Whereas she though she is selective, she also wants to seek out a lot of opportunities and kind of capitalize on that. So there's this understanding that I also even have to be reminded about that sometimes, right? That I'm like, oh yeah, that's very true. And as a dancer also, it's different than as a musician. So coming up in the field of music and trying to be a successful musician and propagate my music around the world is very different than her coming up in the dance world and spreading her dance across the world as she wants to. And so each path is also very different. So it's kind of like as we come up in our careers and our music and our dance, we also change as individuals naturally. But that change and that growth, it's very important that it happens together. I think for us, from the very beginning, we were always traveling in two different directions. And so people said, do you even have time to spend with each other? And it was like we were always in different places. And then when the COVID break happened, we were both stuck in the same place. All tours were canceled, all the travel was canceled, and we were both in Chennai together for some time. And I think that was the first time we were in the same place without even one day of travel beyond maybe like 2 or 3 weeks. Otherwise, till then, there was never anything beyond 2-3 weeks without one of us going somewhere for at least a day. And so that was the first time that happened. And I think we did quite well. We enjoyed our time together for sure. And we definitely like found new activities, watching movies, and even things like just cleaning up the house or cooking, things that we all had to do in COVID. But before that, you never thought much about it. We realized we made a good pair. And she'll cook and I'll clean the dishes, and I'll be listening to a podcast and cleaning dishes, and she'll be cooking, and then we'll both clean the house together, and then we'll watch a movie and spend some time. I'll be practicing, then she'll practice. I mean, you get into that routine and you realize that okay, even in this situation, this very unfortunate, very different situation, you still are able to complement each other and you still are able to support each other. So I think that was like a real, I don't want to call it a test, but it was like a real different sort of a situation that we went through, and we enjoyed it very much. And so I think that going through these different phases of life, that whatever gets thrown at you is when you really see that you complement each other really well.
That's great. Tell me about arguments. How are arguments between the two of you? Have you guys evolved in how short-tempered you might be with each other?
This is turning into a relationship podcast.
We'll get to the other bits shortly.
No, we argue like any other couple, and then we get over it. That's life. That's marriage.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, with my husband, I've been married now. It's going to be 3.5, 4 years. So I think I'm still sort of figuring out how to not hit the wrong buttons. So yeah, it's an evolution. So now moving from, I guess, marriage and relationship a little bit to the past. I mean, when I read about you, it's very evident that you moved back to Chennai from LA very, very early on, I guess, in your life and in your career. And for some, this would be a big sort of reverse migration, somebody who's born and brought up in LA and then moving back to Chennai. 2 questions on this. One is, how did you even get the confidence of doing this moving back? And then the other bit is, I read also that the decision was quite open-ended in the sense that you didn't know how long you would stay in India, how that would evolve. What gave you the confidence to take such a decision?
Well, the early move when I was 11 years old was just for about 1.5 years. That was not a permanent move. That was very much, of course, a suggestion of my parents. It's not something that me as an 11-year-old, I didn't think of that. But my parents have, my mother was my first teacher, and my father organized concerts in the Southern California area since the early 1980s. And I have two older brothers who are very much into music. So I was born in a very musically inclined household. And what happened was, I had given a small concert when I was about 11 years old. And I think from that time of preparing for that, and then my parents seeing my interest and my willingness to commit to that and practice, and they saw that improvement in my music just in that short time preparing for a small program, they thought, okay, this is something that maybe we can encourage somehow, and probably we need to find. See, the thing was, for me also at that age, I was starting to get a little mischievous. My mother was my teacher, and at very young I started learning at the age of 4, and at that time I would go for class very willingly. But as I got a little older, I got a little rebellious, and at the age of, say, 9, 10, 11 is when I don't want to go for class now, and when my mom calls me, I want to go and play outside with my friends. I don't want to go for class, and I was not very regular with that. So that's when my parents also realized two things: that maybe he needs another teacher outside of the house who will be, who will be a little more strict with him and who he will be a little more afraid of. And also that my music itself was getting a little more serious and advanced. So my parents then thought long and hard about that. And I think few musicians who were friends of ours and kind of mentoring myself and my brothers at the time, they suggested send him to India, learn from one of the very senior artists there, the senior musicians and teachers there, Calcutta, K.S. Krishnamurti, who was in Chennai. So that idea was, kind of my parents completely, they wanted to do that. And I think for me though, the selling factor that was that they said you probably won't have to go to school, because the school system there is so different that it's not like you can just plant yourself in 7th grade in India and come back. So when they said no school and living in India and learning music, that appealed to me. So I said, okay, let's do it. I had a good time. My mom came with me. My dad and my brothers were here in the US. My mom came with me for that 1 year. I had a great time learning music, just practicing. And I think the fact that I was not going for school, I was just doing some academic tuitions, part-time to kind of try to catch up with my US subjects. But the fact that I was focused on music so much really kicked it up, and my interest grew quite a bit. I was attending a lot of concerts in that time. So I was listening to a lot more music, and that really made a huge difference. Then later on, when I was in college, was when my subsequent teacher, Sri Sanjay Subramaniam, he kind of said, he saw potential in me, and he said, why don't you just move to India? So again, he kind of planted that seed in my brain, and it grew over the years of my college studies in the US. And I wanted to finish my degree. I had never, at that time, did not know that I would move to India. So with that sort of back and forth idea, I wanted to definitely finish my degree in the US first. So when I finished that, I moved there. And like you said, it was not this, I didn't move there thinking, okay, I've moved. It was more of a, let me take some time, really immerse myself in that environment, that ecosystem, be in Chennai, just go to the sabas, hop around the sabas, and be able to listen to concerts. And what really was happening till then is that I was going back and forth, and whenever I would seek out any performance opportunities, the people involved, the sabha secretaries and the other committee members, they would be happy and impressed when they heard me sing. But when it came to fixing the next year's concert schedule, they would kind of forget about me. And it was a lot of starting from scratch every year, sending them a fresh application, fresh recording, reminding them who I am. Because at that time, also, somebody coming from abroad and performing was not so common. Now you see it's very common, and people, the world has become so small in that sense. At that time, it was not at all common. So every concert slot you saw was filled by people who were based in Chennai or Bangalore or Mumbai or somewhere, usually in India and usually Chennai. So to come from Los Angeles or anywhere abroad, it was very difficult to get that slot. And you'd get one slot in a sabha, and then you wouldn't get called again in that sabha for 4 years, 5 years. So it was something very difficult to justify and sustain, and when you have that interest, it's difficult to sustain that interest when you feel it's not reciprocated, and in the sense, I wanted to perform. I wanted to be on stage and share my music with other people. So I found that I need to move there and see, if I spend some more time, how it goes. And that's when I did that in 2006. And it was sort of like 1 year became 2 and 2 became 3. And I found myself getting more and more rooted in Chennai and in that ecosystem. And as I became more rooted, other people around me saw that and finally started to recognize it. It took some time, though. It definitely took more than 1 or 2 years. It was not something that happened even though I moved and I told people I'm here, I'm going to be here, looking for opportunities, ready to perform, happy to perform, happy to be part of anything. It took quite some time for them to be sort of convinced of that. But finally it happened. And I think even I didn't see it happening. Even I had my doubts along the way. But other people around me luckily saw it happening. You know, even my family members, my music teacher, some of my very senior artists who were like musical mentors to me, like Dr. Ramani, the flute artist, was one of my very close mentors because he's my eldest brother's flute teacher at that time. And he actually would call me and say, I hear good things and I'm seeing things happening and very proud of you and all that. So these type of things were words of encouragement and reassurance. So because of that, like I said, I moved in 2006. I just thought that I'll go back after a couple of years, but now it's 2025 and so I'm still living in Chennai. And I remember along the way, a funny incident in 2014 when I was going to get married and I was sending the wedding invite to one of my college friends. His reply to me was, I know you said you moved to India, but I always thought somewhere I thought you'll move back. Now you're getting married, you're never moving back. I mean, for me, it was already sealed that I was living in India. But if there was any doubt, I think for a few people who were still doubting at that moment, they said, okay, no, you're never moving back. Now you're there forever.
I think one of the questions that I did have, and you kind of alluded to it already, is when you look at a successful person, people sort of tend to forget that there have been hardships or challenges or difficulties that they've faced. In your case, also, it clearly is that it took you some time to sort of establish your roots in the musical scene here. Any other challenges? I mean, if you were talking to, let's say, a young audience, what would you say, or what would your thoughts be around facing difficulties, being patient to sort of get to what their ultimate goal is?
Yeah, patience is key, and I find today that nobody has patience, and I've seen this time and time again, and I think I'm a classic case of this. Is that if you have the patience and you just continue working hard because you enjoy the process of the learning, and it's not just about the output, then things will happen for you, and you probably have the best chance of things working out and things happening if that's your approach. Today, I find a lot of the students, the children, and even the parents, unfortunately, lack that patience, and they're looking at when can my kid be on stage? When can my kid get a concert in this place or that place? Or when are they going to do their arangetram, etc., etc. So instead of looking at it that way and looking at all of the work and dedicating time and focus into putting that effort into the learning, they're looking at just the output, and that's also kind of a consequence of social media and seeing everybody doing something on YouTube and wanting to go viral overnight. That's the double-edged sword of social media and YouTube, right? You have the ability to reach everybody in the world, but if you start learning something today and tomorrow you want to reach everybody, do you even have something to you reach them? What are you going to give them? What if there's no substance in that? And that's what I find is also happening, is very little substance, but because everybody can be a YouTube star and everybody can be an Instagram star, everybody thinks they're extremely talented and they need a little bit of a wake-up call. So that's the unfortunate downside of what I see happening today. So I would say that patience is really key. And I also find that, with many of my own students, they get bored fast. They don't want to sing the same thing over and over again. They don't want to do that repetition. That repetition is so important when it comes to learning, especially in an art form. It's not like a subject like math where 1 + 1 is always 2 and 2 + 2 is always 4. This is a evolving ability or capability. This is something evolving within the self. And so this sort of a practice and reflection and self-reflection is so important always, because it's always changing. The Todi that I sing today is not the Todi I sang 5 years ago, but that is also Todi. This is also Todi. The Todi I sing today is not the Todi I sing tomorrow. But because of constant practice and repeating that I want to sing Todi again and again and again, it evolves. If I don't sing Todi for the next 10 years, the Todi I sing in 10 years from now will be even worse than the one I'm singing today. It's not even going to be the same. Just like that, when I'm learning a song, just repeating that song, learning it, the learning process of repetition, sing that sangadi over and over again, 10 times, 100 times, sing that song 1,000 times so that it really internalizes. Even today, I mean, I will also admit that I'm guilty of learning a song, singing it today, learning a song, singing it tomorrow, because that's also the fast paced nature of everybody wants something new. And I also want to do something new and not just repeat. But often times that I look at a song that I learned, say, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and it's so internalized, so much better than something I learned even 2 years ago. Forget about the one I learned yesterday. But that's just the effect of that repetition. So over 20 years, how many times have I sung it? Or when I learned it 20 years ago, how many times did I sing it before singing it on stage? Whereas today, if I learn a song, I might sing it next week on the stage because I'm so excited I learned this song and I have a new concert and I want to sing a new song for this audience because they also want something new from me. So a lot of those pressures of performing and that responsibility to the audience also creeps in. Also, as you get more successful, it's a little bit of a vicious cycle that as you're more successful and more concerts and bigger audience, you need to start singing more new things. You need to start learning more new things. Then how many times can I only sing what I'm learning today in 20 years? No, that's not realistic. So that's kind of that vicious cycle. But in those early stages and learning stages, I would just tell all the students and the parents, don't be quick to jump and think about only that concert stage and that concert opportunity, and rather look at the learning process, look at the learning. I have many times, even now, even at this age and stage in my career, I have really thought about taking off 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, no concerts, just practice, just look at my music, just kind of like refresh. It could be sort of a reset button, like sometimes we also get into these cycles and we need to step back and hit the reset button so that we also come up with some new things. And I also look at my own music in a new way, a fresh way, because that's not just the audience, right? That's also for my own personal satisfaction, my own personal um, growth as a musician and the musical growth to happen. So there's a lot of things that I think can change, and we need to look at the direction and the pressures that parents are putting on their kids when they do want to support them in the arts. But most parents don't even want to support their kids in the arts. So that's like another side of it, that they only want them to go into engineering or medicine or law or whatever it is. And they also need to support when the kid shows an interest in the arts and things like that.
Yeah. No, I think you've said so many things, and I could have so many jumping off points, but let's take the one that you just ended on, which is what has music taught you in life?
Music is probably the only thing that I have been so, at least at sometimes, so disciplined with. My academic studies, I was not very interested. I would try to just do the bare minimum. Not that I completely ignored it, but at the same time, I was not like a brainy sort of typical kid. I was more into my arts and playing and doing all those sorts of things. So with my music, it was probably the one of the only things that I was so committed to growing up. Not that I was always sure that I wanted to do it or anything like that. But at the end of the day, even if I fought with my parents, I don't want to practice, I don't want to sing, I don't want to go to India, I would still do it because at the end of the day, somewhere inside of me, I did enjoy doing it. And I definitely enjoyed singing for others. And even from a very young age, I really enjoyed singing for others. So if it was even a Tyagaraja Aradhana, Muthuswami Dikshidhar Jayanti, Shama Sastri Jayanti, those sorts of community events, I always enjoyed participating in those and doing my best. Obviously, I wanted to do well in those as well. So it was a lot of times that was the time when I would practice, and that was the time that I really wanted to improve because I know, okay, I'm going to go and sing for other people now. It's not just singing at home. It's not just singing in the class. So that always appealed to me, and so I think at the end of the day, I worked very hard for that, and I enjoyed it. I won't, shouldn't call it work. That's not the best word, but it's something that I always enjoyed spending that time. I think that discipline there made me realize that okay, anything in life, if I want to do it well, it takes that. So if I whatever I want to do now, it really does take time and it takes commitment. It takes a little bit of passion, definitely. And I think I've realized that because at least that one thing, if nothing else, showed me that in life.
You've clearly established yourself as a singer of caliber. What is it that you tell yourself? What's the goal? What's the dream? What keeps you sort of focused on growing?
The music itself is the reason that am focused and want to grow. Because yes, of course there's aspects of one's career. I'm not saying
Mm-hmm.
that's not there. We look at so many things like on Instagram, what can I post next? On Facebook, what can we do next? What is the next music video I can do? And obviously we want it to go well. Obviously we want people to be in there in the audience when we sing a concert. But at the core of it is that I want my music to just keep growing and expanding. If I don't have that, if somewhere I lose that spark, that fire, everything else will fall apart. Doesn't matter. And I also know that I've had some success with certain songs. We know certain songs have gone viral and those are hits and they get requested in every concert. But I'm fully aware that if I don't expand on that repertoire and keep growing that repertoire, then in 1 or 2 years, the same people who said, can you sing this and can you sing that? They will be the same people who say, oh, I don't think he knows anything else. He just sings this and that over and over. That viral hit, number one and number two. It's the only thing he ever sings. And so it can't always be like that either. And that's the responsibility to the audience side. But just for me personally, I have no, what do you say? I'm definitely not content. I don't think I'll ever be just content and satisfied, because if you had asked me 20 years ago what was my goal in music, I would have said something very silly like, oh, I want to sing in an evening concert and I want to have, this artist and that artist with me on stage. Now I look and almost every concert is like that. I'm so fortunate. So the goals change. And I only say I use the word silly because now I think, oh, that was such a attainable goal. I just had to work hard. So that's why it's not silly in a bad sense. But today I'm like, almost take that for granted, certain things. Oh, I want to perform with this artist. Then I did perform with that artist. I want this opportunity to sing on that stage. Then I did sing on that stage. So it's of course important to have those goals, but that keeps changing. And so I think the constant with all of those changes, the constant has been that my music has always grown. So your goals always keep changing. Things about a person can keep changing, but the constant has to be there, that I was always committed to my musical growth, that I want to keep learning more songs. I want to become a more versatile artist. Do I have the ability to sing with another vocalist tomorrow from Hindustani music? Can I sing with a artist who plays piano, who's trained in jazz? Can I play with somebody can I sing with somebody playing guitar, playing the drums, playing the flute, playing all sorts of different things? What do I do in that situation? Am I well equipped enough? These are things that over the years, I've looked at all of that and kind of just tried to keep on increasing my abilities and my skill set, because that's what gives me the most joy also as a musician, to have that versatility and to have that wide range where I know at the end of the day that, see, I've always known that Carnatic music could connect to all of these things. But how do I do it? How does Sandeep Narayan do that as a Carnatic musician has been something that definitely I have been working on and continue to work on. It's not like, okay, I've done it. I sang with a guitar last week and next week I can sing with, piano player. It's something that constantly is changing and evolving. And now I've even worked with a hip hop producer and released an album. And these are things that I never thought I will do. But as you keep growing as an artist, you realize that there's different points where you can connect with different genres, different groups of people. And at one point, I even used to look at music like, hey, why am I only a Carnatic musician? Am I not just a vocalist who can do anything? And I would think about it that way. Then I actually came back and I said, you know what? Carnatic music itself can connect with all of these things and all of these people. So why should I try to be something else? Why should I even try to say that it's something else? It is what it is, and I am what I am. But that itself is more than enough, because I realized that potential of Carnatic music, and I realized that potential that I had as well to do that. And I think that's what just keeps me going, because that's one thing that has not changed. That potential is there to do more. That ability to do more is there, and my striving and the nature of me wanting to do that has been there since the beginning. So what that is that I do different, what that stage is that I perform on, who I perform with, that probably keeps changing. But it's just that strive to do more, what do you say, that drive to do more is been there since the beginning.
You already alluded to it, but I've also read about this in various places that your attempt is also to make Carnatic music more accessible and package it in a way which I guess will speak to broader audiences. Now, whatever little exposure I have to the purists, I would assume some of them may not have a great reaction to this wide exploration. How do you deal with that?
See, it's an exploration. Exploration means that we don't always know what we're going to get, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, the best of the explorers just started, they boarded a ship and had no idea where the hell they were going until they found something. That much of what we do is like that. I'm just trying and going in different directions. But yes, at the essence of it, the core is that my goal is to bring Carnatic music to more eyes and ears around the world. And I'm just finding different ways of doing that. When I do this and when I talk about repackaging, some people have misunderstood it to be that like I'm saying, oh, this has to be repackaged and that there's no space for the sabha, the traditional sabha or the traditional 3-hour concert. I don't believe that at all. That's not what I'm saying at all. I think that's kind of a misunderstanding and a misconception of what I'm trying to do and what I'm trying to say. There's absolutely a place for that. And that is actually what I love doing the most. I love if you give me a stage and say 3 hours and a good sound system and a good hall and a good audience, that's where I feel I do my best, actually. I love, Marguerite, when I go and perform in a sabha and I'm singing for 2 or 3 hours and there's a good audience there. Good could mean quality or quantity or both. That's when I get into a zone where probably the best of my music, the best of my creative juices flow and they come out. So I'm not saying that all that needs to go and be, washed away and repackaged. I'm just trying to say that we need to add to that. I'm trying to, in addition to that, add different sort of repackaged capsules of Carnatic music in different sizes, different forms. So that could be the 1 minute track, the 3 minute track. It could be with the guitar. It could be with the hip hop producer. It could be with the jazz guitarist. It could be with the bass player. I'm exploring something now with a cellist, a viola player, a cello player. For me, it's just about expanding. Expanding means that the bass is very much rooted there. It's not that I'm wiping away the bass and just trying to do 100 different things. So unfortunately, a lot of the people, Rasikas, have kind of misunderstood that I'm trying to do that. I'm not. I love singing in the sabhas, and I think that absolutely has a place. The only thing is that we also have to face the reality of that situation, which is that those audiences kind of are going down. It could be so many different factors. The cool factor is one that I often talk about, that the youth don't think it's cool to get into Carnatic music. I'm trying to make it cool and trying to show them that it is. I'm not making it cool. Rather, I'm trying to show them that it already is. It's so exciting. There's so many different aspects. Maybe they don't all have to become concert singers in the sabha for 3 hours like I enjoy doing personally, but that they can take Carnatic music as a base and do so much with it, that there's different options. What I think has been really misconstrued till now is that either you have to sing in a sabha, you have to go and sing Tadarina and all that and Tori Bhairavi, or nothing. So I'm trying to just show that it goes so far beyond that. And even people without a lot of training, and many people say, oh, I didn't get that training when I was young, my parents put me in a class, but I never enjoyed it. Or many people say, I never even had any training. My parents never put me in any class. Well, how do we connect to those people and show them that Carnatic music is not something so stuffy and not something that's only for a certain geographic part of the country or the city or a certain community? I don't think any of those things are true, and I think that we just need to show that it can easily connect with many, many more people, and that's what I'm striving to do. So that's why, not every experiment is going to work. Not every explorer found the land that they were going for, but you often find something even better along the way. And that's been happening. And sometimes some things don't work and we gave it a shot and we move on to the next thing. But ultimately, my only goal with all of these ventures and experiments is that we make the Carnatic listener base grow. We make Carnatic music awareness grow and get it, just kind of more, at least in the conversation around the world. I think one really amazing thing that happened very recently is that the work I did with Janssen from Toronto, a hip hop producer, was nominated for a Juno Award in Canada, which is the Canadian version of the Grammys. And this is the first time they're adding a South Asian category. This is the first time a Carnatic music based set of songs is being featured there. I mean, who would have thought about that happening 20 years ago? And how do we do that? So people, get to know that even Carnatic music exists because of that. And I've had many young people come to my concerts, even within India. Forget about US or UK. Within India, I've had many young people come to my concerts in Bangalore, Mumbai, Mysore, and say, I love your album with Jansan. I love that because that really appealed to me. Because of that, I came to your concert today. And I'm not even singing those songs with, that's produced in a studio with drums, with so many different beats and different sounds that we're not doing in the Carnatic concert. But I got this person to come into a Carnatic concert because of that. And that's
Right,
really what I'm going for.
right,
So,
right. Now, this I think underscores the importance of balance, I think, right? Because you're balancing two sort of things and doing a great job at it. And now, while we're talking about balance, I was also interested in figuring out how do you balance between self-confidence and ego?
I don't know. Everybody will say they don't have an ego. It's the other people who will say that they have an ego or don't have an ego. I don't think anybody has ever said, "Oh yeah, I have a big ego and I love it."
That's probably true, but let's turn it around and say what keeps you grounded?
I don't know. My feet touch the ground. It's kind of a funny question, how to stay grounded. I think at the end of the day, I have very close family and friends who don't care what level of fame or don't care what award I get or what stage I'm on or who I'm performing with. At the end of the day, I'm still their friend or their uh, relative. And for example, I'm in Los Angeles right now, and I was just going for a walk with my mom down the road literally yesterday, and somebody passes us and says namaste, and they're an Indian person, so we said namaste, and I just thought it's somebody random. Then they're talking to my mother and they're telling my mom that they have a common friend, and she's looking at me and she says, I've heard so many of your songs online. And I was so shocked. I'm literally walking down the road in Los Angeles, and I told my mom after, I said, oh, I didn't expect that. She said, yeah, neither did I. And when I get home, what happens? My mom is like, okay, now you got to take out the trash and do the dishes. So that recognition and fame is short lived when you have your family around you, because the trash still needs to get taken out. The garage still needs to be cleaned. The car still needs gas. And I think that that's the way it should be. I mean, like, I love that. When I'm back in India, nobody cares who I am at home and with my friends. And that's the way that you keep it real, with, for lack of a better word or phrase. And I think that I also don't really, you take all of it with a really big pinch of salt, because all of that is there today. It could go tomorrow. Does that make me who I am? Definitely not. If it does, then I'll be very fickle, I'll be very sensitive in that way. And I don't want that to be who I am, that always somebody has to recognize me, or that always my music is what defines me, that the success of my music, rather, I should say, is what defines me. So I think that the fact that I have always looked at it that way helps a lot. And in many ways, I think that I see the Radhe is also like that. She's probably even more popular than me, at least definitely online. And even when we go places, I feel that she's always more popular, although she claims that I get recognized more places. I don't know if it's true, but both of us are very normal. We live very normal lives. We very often drive our own car and cook our own food and clean our own house. So just living a pretty normal life and doing what we like to do, and not changing that, and not changing our group of friends. It's the same group of friends that we're close to who like I said, they don't care. They, in fact, many of my friends, if we're in a restaurant, somebody comes and recognizes me or Radhe and says hi to us. Some of my friends will even roll their eyes like, oh God, here we go again, And it's because they don't care.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't do anything to stay rooted or to, keep my feet on the ground. I don't have to. Gravity is there to take care of that one.
Nice. I guess closing thoughts. If you were to think of a fulfilled life, what would your definition be?
Fulfilled life. I don't know. Sometimes I look at life and it's so fantastic and I think this is it. And then sometimes you think, my God, we could do so much more. It'll never be it. So it'll never be fulfilled. I think that's probably the way that I would like to live, and I won't preach to anybody else that this is how they should live. But to me, it seems to make the most sense, at least as an artist and at least at this point in my life that I'm very happy with whatever I've done so far with my life today. If you said this is it, but at the same time, if I have today and tomorrow, there's a hell of a lot more I want to do. Definitely.
That's great. And if you could just sing maybe for a couple of minutes, Sandeep, I think that would be a great way
But
to end this.
what would you like to hear?
Like I said, I am very uninitiated. Anything that you feel like singing.
But you called me onto your podcast, so I hope you've heard me sing before. Name one song which you liked, and I'll sing it.
Oops! I've
What?
definitely
What does that
heard.
mean? You don't know any of my songs?
I have definitely heard you sing several times, but I would be able to tell names. Why don't you sing something from Arun, if that's how I'm pronouncing it correctly?
The thing about the Arul album is that it's a lot of produced songs, right? So there's a lot
Hmm.
of produced beats and programmed beats. I could sing something from it, but without that backing, it doesn't have the same effect. What could I sing for you? Let me think. Now I'm just trying to think of something maybe new because everybody would have already heard
Sure.
a lot of the songs that
No
have,
pressure.
quote unquote, gone. No pressure.
No
I think there's
pressure at
pressure.
all.
mm, let's see. Was there anything I sang in Mumbai which you really liked and would
Please,
like
please don't
to hear?
expose my ignorance. I'll have to call my husband and ask him for echoes and then ask you. Just do whatever you feel like.
Oh,
Whatever. Yeah.
okay. సారమైన మాటలెంత చాలు చాలురా సామి 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 సామి సామి.
Thank you. That was lovely. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you
Thank
so
you so
much.
much.
Thanks so much for tuning in. I look forward to your comments and feedback. Before you go, can I ask for a favor? If you like the show, would you consider subscribing? It's an easy way to support us, and we promise to keep doing what we're doing and try and do even better. Thank you.